I want to get back to the biopharma, biopharma and biotech industry role. I mean, it's an interesting time also looking at biotech, crop of young up and comers. The industry's bouncing back. It might not be a rapid bounce, but it's a bounce nonetheless. And a lot of the biotech execs that I spend time talking with are, a generation or two removed from you and I, Alan. They grew up in a in sort of a, push the boundaries and explore new avenues kind of a world, and that's good. Like I think it's good as we look forward to making change happen at the drug distribution level. But the question would be like, what can they, what role can the industry leaders play? I had an interesting conversation just recently with a guy, totally unrelated topic, but I was talking with a guy, Paul Preeb, who's working with me on a project for a single use bioprocess manufacturing single use event, right? So totally unrelated to what we're talking about right now. But we started talking about standards, and he said something that really resonated. He said in his capacity, he hears from a lot of biopharma execs and leaders and SMEs who constantly refer to standards bodies as they and what they need to do. And they need they need to do this and they need to do that. They need to affect this and that. And Paul's response was, they is us. Like they is us. Like if you want standards or systems or operations to change, you can't just sit there and say they. You got to get involved. So to what degree can industry leadership, individuals, people who have opinions and want to see benefit to patients, they want to see benefit to their drug distribution models, even before they exist, what can they do? What can they be doing right now?
I think we need to kind of row in the same direction. But I think in terms of that, I like the woodpecker has always been very effective. You just got to keep pecking in that regard. But I think, changing the way we distribute drugs is something that we should all think about. We don't have to cross the road like the chicken. There are other ways. I think what Amazon and Cuban are doing, speak to that.
Mm-hmm.
Direct to consumer approaches are going to become a possibility. So, I think it's something to think about. I think, you don't want to necessarily be do mercenary selling. Mercenaries get a lot of arrows in their back.
Yeah.
But I think it's something for all of us to continue to think about. I would say that fundamentally, though, that, it's really important for us to focus on, perhaps statements of the obvious, but first things first. You need to focus on developing differentiated and impactful products. And it's critical to really understand what your target product profile is. Otherwise, it's akin to getting into a car without a destination. You're never going to get there. And in addition to establishing clinical value, which I think people always focus on, you need to really understand, how's that going to be differentiated at the end of the day from the standard of care and the competitive products that are out there. And one area that I think people really, really overlook, gloss over, I think it's becoming more. But I think, again, I think it's worth taking a survey and seeing where it falls. And that is focusing on the pharmacoeconomics of a product and really being able to demonstrate the economic value. And ideally, that should really be built into, your clinical studies as appropriate. You should be able to remeasure, I think I touched on it, rehospitalization, additional procedures, and factor in what are you saving the system. Again, I think the emphasis should be on outcomes and system savings. We as a nation, have the highest cost per capita on healthcare spend, and we have the lowest life expectancy in the Western world. Go figure. We're actually spending more for less. That's not good.
For sure. It's not. In the meantime, like in the reality that we're in right now, And that's all great advice. I mean, having a thorough understanding of the economic impact of your therapy gives you, I think, empowerment to have a say, at least, in the way that these things are distributed and who gets paid for them. Um, if you were going to give some advice to someone who's on the precipice, who's about to launch a new therapy in the current paradigm, is there anything that you can suggest to them as to how they navigate in the reality that we're in right now, right? Like, it's one thing to affect big change, and these are great ideas. I mean, it's great to talk about them, but in the paradigm that we're in right now, is there anything that they can do to affect a better outcome despite the the money grab?
I think you just got to, I think it's really blocking and tackling. I don't think you can really swim against the tide here. I think you just understand what you're up against. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really, again, coming back to being able to position your drug, understand who are the right patients for your drug, make sure that, that they understand the drug, that they comply and continue taking the drug, making sure, again, whether or not there's pre-authorization. There's a lot of hoops to get involved with this. So, I think an interesting statistic is how many scripts actually get converted and get fulfilled. Mm-hmm. And there's a big gap there. So, that's money that's falling on the ground, and patients that are not being helped. So I think there's things that you want to look at in terms of ensuring your commercial execution. There's a reason why many drug launches for companies get shorted by the investors on Wall Street. And that's because they don't necessarily execute so well. So the expectations around the drug launch are generally disconnected from what the ultimate reality is. And that inefficiency provides an arbitrage opportunity for investors.
Yeah.
So, learning, I would certainly go to school and look at recent drug launches and look at the ones that have worked and look at the ones that haven't worked. Understand why in both cases, and incorporate those lessons and learnings into your plan of action.
Yeah. Very good. What have I not asked you or not allowed you the time to elaborate on in terms of this this topic and the ideas around affecting change?
I think I would just kind of reinforce what we've said, because I think we've covered this pretty well at a high level. Mm-hmm. And I would just say that, the combination of exposing and reforming PBMs and championing biopharma consumerism would really be a great start to rehabilitating the biopharma bad boy image that we have right now. And I think there's a huge opportunity. The bar is very low.
The bar is very low. The bar is very low. Yes. Yeah, well, good stuff, Allan. I appreciate the conversation. And I mean, do you, when you tackle a topic like this on the podcast, where the concept is big, and the momentum that it would take to create change is like difficult to fathom. I mean, are you comfortable? Are you comfortable? Or are you like, somebody's got to talk about this stuff?
No, absolutely. I mean, I'd be happy to talk about the U.S. budget deficit. That doesn't seem to be getting a lot of airtime either.
We'll save that for another podcast series. Well, and I appreciate it. It's excellent thought. And just to reiterate the point that you made, I think there is a role for virtual everyone in the space to play here. Go to Bio, figure out who your representative is if you haven't done it yet, and become a champion for the cause. I mean, I talk to all of you, and patient outcomes comes up in every single conversation. And if patient outcomes are important, then this is important. So there you go. Take action. It's not them, it's us.
We got to row in the same direction.
Yeah. Allan, thanks for the time. I always appreciate it. And it's always a great conversation.
Always a pleasure and to be continued. Thanks again.